Anunnaki Homeworld by Jason M. Breshears. Read by Kevin Stevens, also known as Grendel Dark. Archive 14. Noahic Warning Comet and the Spear of Niburu Apocalypse Comet. The Egyptians keep written records of the observed results of any unusual phenomena, so they come to expect a similar consequence to follow a similar occurrence in the future. Herodotus, The Histories. The comet groups previously detailed in this work were from antiquity and sufficient enough to introduce our profound discoveries concerning 2046 AD and the year 2052 AD. These last few archives are found at the end of this book because inclusion earlier in the text would have unnecessarily broken up the continuity of the research. And further, the rest of these orbital timelines concern only astronomical events occurring after 1260 AD. These groups were all brought into their own orbits after Niburu made its final pass into our inner solar system, entering in 1254 AD and exiting in 1314 AD, causing terrible disasters around the world. As will be seen, we are not entirely finished with 2046 AD. In 1694 AD, astronomer Edmund Halley proposed before the prestigious Royal Society of London that the Great Flood had been caused by a comet collision. He studied European records for the last few centuries and determined that a comet would pass through the inner system and be seen clearly from Earth in 1758 AD. This comet did indeed appear after his death, but his name was attached to it, and it has since been known as Halley's Comet. For reasons that will become clear, this author calls it the Noahic Warning Comet. Allegations that Halley's Comet was seen prior to 1260 AD are incorrect. Comets prior to this date are of other groups already detailed, nor do they fit the orbital pattern here. Astronomers often use approximates to cover errors and further conceal their mistakes by claiming comets or other orbiting objects are perturbated by gravitational forces that slow them down or speed them up, whichever fits their theoretical model at the time. Noahic Warning Comet. After breaking away from Niburu, this solitary comet, not part of a group, passes through the inner system and over the ecliptic in 1306 AD. Orbit varies from 75.3 to 75.7 years. 1306 AD, 5200 AM. This is during the chaotic period known as the Seven Comets, a period of 16 years from 1298 to 1314 AD, when catastrophes were recorded around the world. This is the 52,000th year of the Annus Mundi chronology, paralleling the Mayan long count's 144,000 times 13 days, or 1,872,000 days of 360 years. This date is also noted for the decline of the Mayan civilization. This year begins an 800-year countdown to Armageddon and the return of the chief cornerstone in 2106 AD, 6000 AM. 1381 AD, 5274 AM. No records. 1456 AD, 5350 AM. Antonion Bonfini and other Europeans left records of an unusual comet with two tails and half as long as the sky with golden-like flames. 1531 AD, 5425 AM. Halley's Comet witnessed by the prophet Nostradamus. 1607 AD, 5501 AM. No records. This is the year the first permanent English colony was founded in North America, Jamestown. 1683 AD, 5577 AM. No records. 1758 AD, 5652 AM. Comet seen and named Halley's, though this author found no records for the prior 1607 and 1683 passings. Halley must have had them in order to make this prediction. 1834 AD, 5728 AM. No record of a comet, but astronomer Pastorff reported that large fragments, huge in size, passed over the disk of the Sun. 1910 AD, 5804 AM. Halley's Comet is photographed for the first time. It is very visible and exhibited 5 tails. The Exodus 1447 BC comet had 10 tails that enveloped Earth. 1986 AD, 5880 AM. Halley's Comet passed through the inner system, and the European spacecraft Giotto measured its tail at 10 million miles in length and took the first ever close-up pictures of a comet's nucleus, its foundation. Before the flood, old Noah was warned that the foundations of the world would be broken and the world would be destroyed by water in 120 years. The Hebrew word foundation having a geometrical value of 120. This year of 1986 AD was precisely 120 years before the year 6000 Annus Mundi, 2106 AD, when the chief cornerstone returns upon the foundation of the monument of man to initiate the Stone Kingdom, millennium. This kingdom's foundation being the 6,000 years of humanity's trial and testing period. Christ is the stone the builders rejected, foreshadowed also in 1986 AD by the pass of the 5-mile-wide asteroid Adonis, Syro-Phoenician for Lord, 186,000 miles from Earth, or 52,000 miles closer than our own moon. In 1986 AD, a major discovery concerning the foundation of Earth was made by Robert Gentry, who found that billions upon billions of polonium-218 radio halos are entombed within granite around the world. Granite is basement rock, the foundation or skeleton of the planet. It requires about 3 minutes for radio halos to appear, but they quickly vanish. The mystery is how they appeared in solid granite, for the granite must have already been hard when the halos appeared, for the halos would have long since dissipated during the cooling process. Creating radio halos in granite is impossible, for the molten granite turns to rhyolite. Thus, the halos present in granite means that the granite was formed in an instant. Granite, with its very large crystals, cannot be made from molten rock, and the radio halos captured in the stone are evidence of instant creation that occurred at the foundation of the world, made known to man in this 120th year before Armageddon. It is also to be noted that in 1986 AD, crop circle researchers also discovered the first crop circle formation appearing with rings around the agriglyphs. This is the final pass of Halley's Comet, important to our thesis, for the next is scheduled in 2060 AD. However, the 2046 AD orbital alteration of Earth will change this. This comet may have a future, darkly apocalyptic role to play in the tribulation drama that will occur. Spear of Niburu Apocalypse Comet Group. This train of asteroids, ice-encased debris, and a large comet broke free of Niburu when the Anunnaki Homeworld entered the system in 1254 AD. The strewn train is 7 to 8 years long, initially being only 6 years long. 1254 to 1260 AD, 5148 to 5154 AM. Initiate their break from Niburu and begin solar orbit. 61.9 years over ecliptic. 1315 to 1321 AD, 5209 to 5215 AM. In 1315 AD, bad harvests were reported throughout Europe, resulting in a famine. Famine lasts through 1517 and results in incidents of cannibalism. It has been estimated that 10% of Europe's population died. 18.5 years under ecliptic. 1333 to 1339 AD, 5227 to 5232 AM. In 1333 AD, a meteorite crashed into China, killing everyone within 100 miles with noxious gases. Strange omens are seen in the skies over China, and Mongol Emperor Toghon Timur Khan ascends the throne. Many Asian records attest that this time was one of earthquake activity, weird storms, and comets. In 1336 AD, extraordinary thunderstorms are reported over France. 61 years over ecliptic. 1394 to 1400 AD. 5188 to 5294 AM. In 1400 AD, a meteorite of metal crashed into a region close to Elbogen, Bohemia. When it was found, it still weighed 235 pounds. 18 years under ecliptic. 1412 to 1419 AD. 5306 to 5313 AM. No records. 61 years over ecliptic. 1473 to 1480 AD. 5367 to 5374 AM. 1480 AD was a very important pyramid chronometrical year. Arabian records tell of a comet that appeared like a spear with a sickle in 1479. 18 years under ecliptic. 1490 to 1498 AD. 5384 to 5392 AM. In 1490, a meteorite shower in Central Asia killed 10,000 or more people, and on the other side of the world, a volcano erupted in the Ox Mountains of Ireland, killing many people and much livestock. 61 years over ecliptic. 1551 to 1559 AD. 5445 to 5453 AM. In 1551 AD, a strange epidemic called sweating sickness afflicted England. This disease has never resurfaced since this date, and its prior 4 appearances, see Chronicon, seem to be associated with astronomical phenomena. In 1556 AD, on January 23rd, more than 800,000 people perished in an earthquake in the Shenxi province of China, principally in Shanxi. 18 years under ecliptic. 1569 to 1577 AD. 5463 to 5471 AM. In 1577 AD, a bright comet appeared over Europe. In October of 1571, a bright streak appeared in the night sky for a long time, as seen from Europe. It was a huge pillar of fire regarded as a good omen to the combined naval fleets of Spain, Venice, and the Roman Papal States on their way to battle the Turkish Ottoman Navy. On October 7th, the Catholic fleets defeated the Turks in the naval battle of Lepanto. In 1577, in Altorf, near Wittenberg, Germany, was seen black objects in the sky in December. 61 years over ecliptic. 1630 to 1638 AD. 5524 to 5532 AM. In 1631 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupted in Italy, killing 4,000 people, far less than it had suffocated in 79 AD, and previously in 1687 BC. Otherwise, no records. 18 years under ecliptic. 1648 to 1656 AD. 5542 to 5550 AM. R.P. Gregg reported luminous objects falling out of the sky in 1652 AD. In Chladni's account, a viscous mass fell with a luminous meteorite between Rome and Siena. This same year concludes the 12th back tune of the Mayan long count, 144,000 times 12 days. 61 years over ecliptic. 1709 to 1717 AD. 5603 to 5611 AM. The train seems to have spread into a 9th year by this date. In 1718 AD, the exact same phenomenon recorded in 1652 AD happened again. Upon the island of Lethe, India, rained globes of luminous objects, meteorites, that when investigated turned out to be some gelatinous matter, as recorded in the American Journal of Science. 18 years under ecliptic. 1727 to 1736 AD. 5621 to 5630 a.m. This period coincides perfectly with the passing of the 2046 AD Niburu Comet orbit group that moved through the inner system from 1730 to 1736 AD and involved 5 continuous years of earthquake activity, quakes attended by luminous clouds moving rapidly across the sky, strange mists in the sky that glowed, influenza outbreak in the Americas, and a rain of dust and soil, all described earlier in this book. 61 years over ecliptic. 1788 to 1797 AD. 5682 to 5691 AM. In 1788 AD, astronomer Schroeder witnessed a light appearing on the moon in the lunar mountains. But when sunlight later illuminated the region, he saw that it was cast in a great blackness. This appears to have been the eruption of a lunar volcano. Eruptions were first noticed in the year previously, in 1787 AD, when Herschel first reported these lights he believed were eruptions. In 1792 AD, Mount Unzen in Japan erupted, killing 14,500 people. This date is 1000 plus 792 Anno Domini. In 1794 AD, in the month of June, Mount Vesuvius erupted and stones rained from the sky over Tuscany. Also, during a violent storm, stones rained over Siena, Italy. In 1796 AD, we have the return of the glowing meteorites of gelatinous matter falling at Lusatia in March. In 1797 AD, an earthquake at Quito, Ecuador, killed 41,000 people. The following year, in 1798 AD, it rained a strange bituminous substance over Germany in March, 18 years under ecliptic. 1806 to 1815 AD, 5700 to 5709 AM. In 1806 AD, on March 15th, rained a bituminous substance near Alais, France. A commission appointed by the French Academy determined it to be like coal. On May 16th, 1808 AD, occurred the following. The sun suddenly turned dull brick red. At the same time, there appeared, upon the western horizon, a great number of round bodies, dark brown, and seemingly the size of a hat crown. They passed overhead and disappeared in the eastern horizon. Tremendous procession. It lasted 2 hours. Occasionally, one fell to the ground. When the place of the fall was examined, there was found a film, which soon dried and vanished. Often, when approaching the sun, these bodies seemed to link together, or were then seen to be linked together. And under the sun, they were seen to have tails 3 or 4 fathoms long. Away from the sun, these tails were invisible. Whatever their substance may have been, it is described as gelatinous, soupy, and jellied. In July of 1811, a meteorite fell from the sky after an aerial explosion. It was investigated where it fell near Heidelberg, where it was discovered to be of gelatinous composition. A massive earthquake shook the eastern United States along the Mississippi River Valley and further east. In 1812 AD, January, another earthquake shocked the eastern United States, and a third more destructive quake happened in February, covering 1.5 million square miles. In Russia, a typhus epidemic broke out, crippling the Russian military and afflicting Napoleon's forces as well. A red, viscous matter reigned at Ulm. In March 1813, a yellow powder rained on Gerace, Calabria, which, when examined, was found to have traces of resin. This unusual phenomenon was attended with loud explosions in the sky. The train was followed in 1816 AD by a huge object, seen as an extraordinary spectacle, passing through the sky that apparently missed the Earth. 61 years over ecliptic. 1867 to 1876 AD. 5761 to 5770 AM. In 1867, some carbonaceous matter fell at Golapara, India. about 8% of it hydrocarbons. In 1868, on January 30th, a mass of burning sulfur fell from the sky upon a road and was stamped out by bystanders, and more carbonaceous matter fell on Ornans, France, on July 11th. On February 24th, during a violent storm in 1868 over Ontario, there fell with the snow a dark-colored alien substance that, when investigated, was discovered to be a vegetable matter, far advanced in decomposition. This material fell upon a frozen Earth in North America in a 50-mile strip, 10 miles wide, and was estimated at 500 tons. In 1870, on February 12th, a large luminous object was seen in the sky over Italy when an earthquake occurred, followed the next day on the 13th with a rain of sand. On the 14th of February, there fell from the sky at Genoa, Italy, a yellow substance containing, as seen under a microscope, globules of cobalt blue. In April and May, reports assert that a lot of this matter fell upon France and Spain, and that it was certainly not pollen, and that it gave off an odor of charred animal matter. On August 20th, over Switzerland, large salt crystals rained along with hail. In 1871, the Great Fire of Chicago occurred, aggravated by gale-force winds that created an incendiary tornado so hot that it even burned granite, marble, and iron. A huge fiery ball was seen flying through the sky just prior to the onset of the fire, and other areas around the city, in the country, and surrounding counties caught fire as well. Astronomers Hind and Denning, in November 1871, report an object seen passing over the sun. In 1872, on March 9th, 10th, and 11th, a dust-like substance fell from the sky, reported to have been composed of red iron ochre, carbonate of lime, and organic matter. In November, a brilliant meteor shower exhibited over 150,000 shooting stars within a 6-hour period. Astronomers, at a loss to explain the unpredicted phenomenon, said that these were merely the fragments of a comet Biela that split apart in 1845. This Anno Domini year, 1872, is an abbreviated Mayan long count of 144 times 13 years. In January 1873, burning cinders fell from the sky and landed on the deck of a ship, and at Marlsford, England, on September 4th, there fell a strange black rain, and then, 24 hours later, another blackish rain fell again at the same location. On March 14th, 1873, there rained orange hailstones on Tuscany, and in the following year, on June 9th, there fell a hail containing carbonate of soda. Also, in 1874 AD, during the transit of Venus, there happened an earthquake near Cairo, Egypt. In July, fell hailstones of frozen vegetable matter on Toulouse, France. On April 14th of 1875, at Victoria, Australia, a meteorite landed near a residence. When investigated the next morning, the area was covered in cinders. And in December, the Rio de Janeiro Observatory reported seeing vast numbers of bodies passing over the sun, some being luminous, clear, and others dark. On March 3rd, 1876, at Olympian Springs, Kentucky, flakes of a substance that looked like beefy leaves fell from a clear sky. It was apparently highly pressurized detritus that covered the trees and a field of a 300-foot long and 150-foot wide area. On April 20th, during a rainstorm, a meteorite of iron fell near Wolverhampton, England. The following year, in 1877 AD, February 27th, a yellow golden matter fell at Peclo, Germany, in which 4 kinds of organisms were detected that were described as microscopic arrows, coffee beans, horns, and discs. On June 23rd, a reddish rain fell on Italy, and on October 14th, during gale-force winds, something fell from the sky that looked like a bright, luminous green fire. 18 years under ecliptic. 1885 to 1894 AD. 5779 to 5788 AM. In 1885, a volcanic island, Falcon Island, emerged from the sea. On August 10th, over Grazac, France, fell a bituminous matter. At midnight, February 24th, 1885, latitude 37 north and longitude 170 east, between Yokohama and Victoria, the captain and crew of the Innerwich noticed the sky turning fiery red. A couple minutes passed before, all at once, a large mass of fire appeared over the vessel, completely blinding the spectators. The fiery mass fell into the sea. Its size may be judged by the volume of water it displaced. The noise was deafening, and the sea became tumultuous and almost knocked over the ship. On November 1st, a giant red object moved slowly in the sky, and was 4 times the size of the moon, as seen from Adrianople. On August 27th, 1885, at about 8:30 a.m., there was observed by Mrs. Adeline D. Bassett a strange object in the clouds coming from the north. She called the attention of Mrs. L. Lowell to it, and they were both somewhat alarmed. However, they continued to watch the object steadily for some time. It drew nearer. It was of triangular shape. While crossing the land, it had appeared to descend, but, as it went out to sea, it ascended and continued to ascend, until it was lost to sight high in the clouds. One wonders if this was an Anunnaki vessel. On March 19, 1886, at 3 p.m., a profound darkness covered the city of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, in 5 minutes becoming as black as midnight. This blackness lasted for 8 to 10 minutes on a day that had been light but cloudy. It came out of the west and passed over Oshkosh, going east, and reports came out of the towns west of Oshkosh, claiming that it had already occurred there. A wave of total darkness passed from west to east. During a strong gale on March 1st, 1886, a meteorite was seen. On April 15th of 1887, a resinous substance fell, and on April 30th, there fell upon Castlecommon, Ireland, a thick blackish rain. On March 19th, 1887, during a severe storm at sea, as seen from a Dutch bark, 2 objects were seen in the sky, one luminous and the other dark. One or both crashed into the sea with a roar and large waves. Immediately afterward, chunks of ice fell from the sky. On March 6, 1888, a reddish rain fell upon the Mediterranean, and 12 days later it rained a red substance again. When researchers applied heat, the substance gave off a strong odor of animal matter. On March 9th, a block of limestone fell from the sky near Middleburg, Florida. On August 14th, a black rain fell so dark that it was described as a shower of ink at the Cape of Good Hope. In 1889, an immense quantity of black pebbles rained upon Palestine, Texas. They were not like any geological formation in the region. On April 2nd, an intense darkness covered Atkin, Minnesota, followed by a rain of sand and solid chunks of ice. On June 9th, a substance fell in the skies of Russia that yielded forth an unknown mineral. In June 1890, hail mixed with sandstone pebbles rained on France, and on May 15th, a substance like blood rained upon Messagnati, Calabria. It was sent to Rome for testing and determined to be real blood. Obviously, the residue of an ancient war or disaster when Niburu was quick frozen, its blood-flooded fields later broken off into cometary glaciers, awaiting the day they would rain on Earth, entering the atmosphere as a time capsule of divine wrath. On October 27th, A comet-like body moving at an extreme velocity covered 100 degrees as observed from Grahamstown in 1890, making this distance of 45 minutes. Evidently, it was extremely close to Earth. On January 20th, 1891, a meteorite was seen over Italy, followed by a rain of stones and an earthquake. On April 4th, 1892 AD, a Dutch astronomer, Mueller, witnessed black objects traveling over the face of the moon. In October 1893, Comet Brooks collided into something in space, and photographic evidence of this crash was published in the February 1894 edition of Knowledge. The collision was with an unknown dark object. On November 30th, during a total eclipse of the sun by the moon over Santiago, Chile, tens of thousands of people gazed into the heavens in amazement at a mysterious, red, nebulous veil enveloping the Earth. After the nebulous matter passed, and while the sun was still eclipsed, a dark object was clearly visible as it passed over the orb of the shadowy moon. A similar object was seen by the Lowell Observatory to be near Mars in 1894 AD on November 25th. 61 years over the ecliptic. 1946 to 1955 AD, 5840 to 5849 AM. A polio epidemic broke out in the United States. Unfortunately for our thesis, the knowledge filters erected by academia in the early 20th century were by now in full effect. The result being that any unusual phenomenon that could not be explained was either ignored or rationalized away by simple, explainable occurrences. The majority of astronomers refused to report truly enigmatic sightings due to attacks against their prestige, character, and abilities as professional scientists. On January 15, 1951, Mount Lamington, New Guinea erupted, spewing toxic gases for 5 days, killing 5,000 people. Astronomers reported to the U.S. government that large objects were heading towards Earth from space, thought to be giant asteroids. But at a distance from Earth, these objects adopted a geosynchronous orbit around the planet at the equator, and their presence as vessels, 1953, was discovered and kept secret. A dialogue between these Anunnaki visitors and the U.S. officials resulted in an alliance for the exchange of goods, knowledge given to humans, genetic material rights over abducted humans given to Anunnaki watchers. By June of 1953, already 250 tornadoes had afflicted the United States. These Anunnaki vessels, shaped like huge asteroids, arrived within the sphere of Niburu Apocalypse Comet Group, and quickly departed. In 1954 AD, Comet 12P Pons Brooks appeared and was seen for several months, brightly lit and giving off several unusual explosions between July and September. Origin of this comet is unknown. Whether it belongs to the sphere of Niburu group remains to be seen. On November 29th, an 8.5-pound meteorite crashed through the roof of a house in Sylacauga, Alabama, through the ceiling, struck a radio, and bounced before hitting Anne Elizabeth Hodges on the hip, leaving a dark bruise. A famous case. 18 years below ecliptic. 1964 to 1973 AD, 5858 to 5767 AM. A powerful earthquake afflicted Alaska in 1964, but due to remoteness, only 131 people died. A windstorm at Bangladesh, India, killed 17,000 people, followed by another storm killing 30,000 people, and a third storm in December that killed 10,000 more people at Bangladesh. A great blackout occurred in the northeastern United States, leaving millions without power. Power companies not connected to the main power grid were also affected, and VLF, very low frequency, and ham radio reception were jammed with static, all indicating not a power outage, but an electromagnetic disturbance. In 1970, a quake in Peru caused an avalanche in May that buried alive and killed 25,000 people. A total of 66,000 people died due to the quake. A violent cyclone killed 300,000 people at Bangladesh, India. In 1972, a large meteor the size of a football field blazed across the sky over North America, witnessed by many in the United States and Canada as a fiery ball in the daytime. In 2009, a comet was seen called McNaught, the largest ever measured. Unknown if it belongs to the Spear Group. 61 years over ecliptic. 2025 to 2034 AD. 5919 to 5928 AM. As this date has not occurred, the reader is left to speculate for himself on what will unfold. Or, if a peek into the future is desired, refer to Chronicon, Timelines of the Ancient Future. 18 years under ecliptic. 2043 to 2052 AD. 5837 to 5946 AM. These years are the most devastating for Earth, with the most human casualties, especially in the year 2046 AD. This period ends in 2052. It is to be remarked that the majority of these astronomical sightings or events happened in March, April, or May of each year, or took place within this entire 3-month period. We are indebted to the exhausting research of Charles Fort, who was able to penetrate the frontiers of occult science before these priests of knowledge were able to activate fully their knowledge filters. An approach is needed that can help break down the compartmentalization of knowledge, in itself a consequence of man's propensity to split apart and artificialize phenomenon that are functionally unified. Trevor James Constable in The Cosmic Pulse of Life.